Hello everybody, Yetta here, and I'm going to be discussing very briefly the news of the day that President Trump got rid of the United States Department of Education. Well, my response to that is, whatever. Guess what? It's going to make no difference in terms of what's going on in the schools. It will not impact anything. Instruction will not be impacted by the dismantling of the Department of Education. I have tried in my videos to provide some guidance in terms of what will improve education in this country, but nobody's listening, nobody cares. But I'm in a good position to give advice. 1, until you change the learning model that's in place in most of the schools in this country, education will not improve. 2, until you provide staff development and educate teachers how to handle large classes of students, education will not improve because the teacher is going to be spending a great part of the day handling disruptive students. You need strong teachers in the classroom who know how to nip disruptive behavior in the bud. Get rid of the Lucy Calkins learning model. Bring back a basal reader in the teaching of phonics. Get rid of students sitting in groups and swing them back to sitting in rows in quiet classrooms where a teacher is allowed to provide teacher-directed lessons. And get rid of the concept of productive noise. Get back to silent classrooms. But I want to be discussing something even more important, and that's the concept that somehow students' test scores are reflective of, 1, how effective a teacher is, and 2, of what the student has learned in school. I'm here to tell you it reflects nothing. Test scores reflect nothing. How about that? Let me repeat that. Test scores reflect nothing. Test scores do not tell you how effective instruction is in the classroom. It's no measure of a teacher's effectiveness. Tests aren't given to determine who the good teachers are in a school. If test scores were an indication of how effective the teachers are, all the students in the class would score the same. You hear me on that? If tests and the results of tests reflect or tell us who the good teachers are, all students in the class would get the same score, and they don't. Some do well on the test, some don't do well on the test, some fail the test in the same class with the instruction having been provided by the same teacher. Why is that? Why is that? If you're under the assumption that the test is going to determine if the teacher was effective or not, then all the kids in the class would score the same. They don't. The test score in some way will tell you if the student studied the material and if the student paid attention in class. That's all. They don't all score the same. They would if it was an indication of how effective the teacher was. And it gives you none of that. Number 2, test scores are also no indication of what a student has learned. You can have a student be excellent in the subject about which he's being tested and fail the test? Why is that? Because sometimes students just don't want to be bothered taking the test. I'm the perfect example of that. In high school, I failed mostly every single test that I was given. Why? Because I didn't want to be bothered doing it. I didn't take the test seriously. I just didn't. I can't give you any other answer than that. I just didn't want to be bothered taking the test. It was an annoyance to me. And it was an annoyance to several of the other students in the same class. We were given back then tests that were called Digitech. Maybe you remember those tests. Maybe you've heard of those tests. You're asked a question, and then you have to bubble in the correct answer in a multiple choice question. You know how I took that test? I made a pretty design on the answer paper. Maybe it's reflective of me, I don't know, but I know many other students in the same class who did the test the same way. I said to my friend Roberta, was the test easy for you? Was the test difficult for you? And she said, I don't know. She said, I didn't even read the questions. I just went down and made a pretty design with my answers. And we failed most of the tests. There are many students in high school that don't take tests seriously. They just want it to get over with, so at 3 o'clock they can go and have fun with their friends after school. They don't take school seriously. They don't understand that these tests could follow them or be used in another way to evaluate how successful the teacher is or how much they've learned in school. So really, the whole system is flawed. It's a flawed system. I don't have much more to say about that. But until you start by getting rid of that learning model that's in most of the schools now in this country, get rid of the concept of whole language, bring back the basal reader, bring back phonics, get rid of all the decorations that teachers are required to do in the classroom, get back to a traditional, back to basics approach. Stop emphasizing test scores and thinking that test scores are a great indication of what the students are learning or have learned, or that test scores are some way an indication of how effective the teachers are. You're never going to fix anything. And I'll repeat it. If test scores were any indication of the effectiveness of the teacher in that class and her ability to provide instruction, all the kids in the class would get the same score on the test. Tests aren't used to see who the effective teachers are. And they shouldn't be used to evaluate what the students have learned, because sometimes kids aren't even reading the questions, so they're putting any answer down. They just don't take the tests seriously. They don't take school seriously, they don't take the tests seriously. And that's just how it is. And if the tests were any measure of the effectiveness of the teachers, all the kids in the class would get the same score on the test. There wouldn't be some who did well and some who did poorly. They'd all get the same score. And then you have to determine which of the students are even taking the test seriously. Because they don't take school seriously, why would they take the test seriously? They put any answer down and give it to the teacher, and that's it, done. You have to turn the whole system inside out, get back to a basics approach, traditional education, quiet classrooms, forget bulletin boards, let the teachers teach, and maybe there'll be a change. But dismantling the Department of Education, Good try. It's going to do nothing. Nothing at all. It's the sound of one hand clapping.